Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Decadent. I'm joined again by my father and Plummer.
And I'm here, obviously, you can tell by my body shape, to talk about Star Wars.
Oh, sick. Yeah, we just finished watching Andor Season 2. They've been dropping them in triplets, as everybody's noticed.
Yep.
So this was, what was it, 10, 11, 12?
Yep.
So we're here to just kind of give kind of our thoughts about it, things we like, dislike. You know the score by now. As we often do in real life, we sit around and we usually have these discussions while we have cigars. So, Dad, why don't you start us off? What are you smoking?
I'm having HC Crown White, so it's very good. It's a nice mellow cigar. I've had them before on the show, and I really do like them. It's a very good smoke.
Awesome. Plummer.
I'm just smoking Ezra Zion random grab pack cigar, and it is fantastic.
Same. Mine is also just a random Ezra Zion from the graph pack, and again, the quality is exceptionally high. So,
I don't know who these guys are. I don't know if I would like them if I met them, but I like what they make.
That's probably, I hope somebody thinks that about us.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Actually, my volume seems a little high. When I just said absolutely right, it spiked real high. I'll fix it. It doesn't matter.
There you go.
Fix it in post. So, I think first things first, we'll just kind of go through, as we always do, kind of spoiler-free. Would you recommend it? Andor Season 2, yes or no? Father?
Yes, I would recommend it.
Nice.
No spoilers. Start slow. I like the ending.
Yeah. Plummer?
I would, I absolutely would recommend it. I would give it just about an 8 out of 10, which is a very high score for, just general scoring. I think it's a fine addition to the Star Wars universe. I really want to watch Rogue One now.
Yes.
In fact, I want to just go watch it right now.
No, I get you.
It was really good.
It was really good. I was a big fan of the first season. As a matter of fact, Brando came over and we did a Andor in the State of Star Wars thing where we kind of just ran through Star Wars, what we thought about some of the projects and stuff way back, early days. And so I was kind of excited for this. I know the first season was kind of like mixed bag reviewed, but it ended up gaining. People thought it was too slow, and they couldn't figure out what the point is in a prequel where we know where they're all headed, kind of thing, right?
Okay.
So those common complaint, and I was really excited about it. I actually like slower paced, methodical storytelling, so I was pretty excited for season 2, if I'm being honest. I do think there are a number of fair criticisms when it comes to pacing and the way the story is broken into. All right, here's your 3-episode arc. Year flash forward, 3-episode arc year. I'm not sure 100% if I agree with the necessity to do a year jump between every arc. Without getting the spoilers, I would say episodes like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which kind of covered like this one event. I don't think we needed to necessarily have as dramatic a year jump. And I'll explain into some of the reasons why I think they could have taken their time with it when we get into a little bit more spoiler territory. But yeah, for me, big recommendation.
Yep.
I enjoyed it, and just broadly speaking, it felt very heroic Star Wars, didn't it? Like they were really doing truly heroic things. Like they understood the sacrifice, they understood how to build a rebellion and what it costs.
And I think that's actually a good point, because I was thinking that too. I was thinking like these are the heroes of the rebellion. Like as Cassian was walking down like a hallway or whatever at one point, or possibly the woods, I was sitting there, I was looking at him, I was like, that's a goddamn hero right there.
Yeah.
Like without a question, that is one of the most heroic people in all of Star Wars, and we know where it ends with Rogue One, and so it's this really bittersweet moment. But the real thing is, I think that, if you're watching this review, you've seen Andor Season 1, or I don't know what the hell you're doing here. But
I hope you've seen Rogue One, too.
It is totally fairly different, because Season 1 is about the character himself becoming... It ends with him becoming, okay, I'm joining a cause.
Right.
Whereas he was very selfish and self-serving, or, serving his own cause and agenda in Season 1. And then in this season, it's very much a character who has drank the Kool-Aid, more or less. Well, yeah, and not really.
No.
But at the same time, he's very...
Well, he's definitely more in it because of the events of Season 1, where they essentially, destroy his his planet, destroy his people, especially like like his mom, and it's
You
forcing.
you still had reservations though. There was a couple of times in the show where he said like, "I think I'm going to walk away."
Yeah.
We could, I see where this is all heading. We can just take off, do our thing, and live out our lives and not worry about it. It's like,
Yes, he does
Do,
try
do
to
we want to
bring
do
that
the
up.
ostrich? Put your head in the sand, go away, and just do this, or not?
And it's not a spoiler because we all know where it ends up.
Yeah, exactly.
But season 1 didn't feel Star Wars. It felt like general science fiction. It felt like good science fiction in
Okay.
a world, in like a kind of insular world that you haven't seen before, because you haven't seen this side of Star Wars.
No.
A little bit. If you've read the books, I'm sure you have. If you've seen all the extended universe, I'm sure you can list countless examples where it is similar to this.
Right.
But for me, I've watched the movies and I've watched the TV series fans, I have not seen like the day-to-day lives of the Imperial citizens, the people that end up becoming rebels, the people that
Right.
the people that work for the bureaucrats in the essentially Nazi Empire, or I was thinking a lot of Soviet comparisons this season.
Okay.
Like how do you stay safe? Well, you watch him. He watches you.
Yeah.
So who are we being safe from? If you watch him and he watches you,
very
everyone
much like
is
the
safe.
Stasi.
It is.
Right.
There's a lot of secret
Yeah.
policing.
And so so season 1 is very just kind of like this, and then season 2 is just, it's so much more Star Wars than season 1 was, and it all because Rogue One ties into Star Wars. It is a Star Wars story, whereas
That's what it says.
Andor is it, but season 2 of Andor is.
Interesting.
I kind of circled around what I was trying to say there, but
I get what you're
I'm
saying.
trying to say is it felt like more traditional Star Wars, but I don't think it suffered for that.
Right.
Despite the fact that one of the big charms of season 1 for me was that it didn't feel like Star Wars, and season 2 feeling like Star Wars is kind of a charm in itself as well. So I don't know. I'm just happy with the show. I liked it. I'm happy I have something that I liked.
I think a lot of what I really enjoyed and kind of kept it grounded in Star Wars for me was the ISB. I thought
It kinda
having-
did.
Yeah.
What does that stand for?
I think it's like I'm going to say like Imperial
Imperial
Security Bureau or
Bureau or
Internal
something like
Security
that, yeah.
Bureau or something.
In my head, I was just like Imperial space bureaucrats.
They're
But they were the spy guys.
the security guys.
Yeah, kind of like they're the CIA or whatever you want to call it at that point.
Or FBI,
Or
CIA,
FBI, CIA
the
kind of thing.
Stasi
Yeah.
kind of thing.
SS.
Yeah, they're the SS.
Oh, KGB.
KGB.
Let's stick with
KGB.
Soviets, 'cause
Soviets,
honestly.
Yeah, no, you're right. They're more
Like
like
the,
KGB.
because
They had rank in office that they were very much flexing.
the surveillance state felt a lot like the Soviet style, and the way that people went to work and was like, when he worked at the bureau, Cyril, he's just like,
Yes.
I'm at the bureau and I found this, and by watching and reading all of these paperworks, I eventually
Eventually
found
found
10% waste in
All right, yeah, we'll stick with the Soviet one. That works for me. No, it's great. So yeah, I really liked season 1, and I really was excited for season 2, and I don't think it disappointed. So I would say you have it, 3 for 3. And to be honest, Star Wars has been kind of in a rough spot lately. There haven't been a lot of things I've enjoyed, and I've kind of stopped paying attention to it, if I'm being 100% honest.
I mean, when was the last time you were excited about Star Wars?
Oh,
I think when I got Disney Plus day 1 to watch the first episode of Mandalorian,
Okay.
if I'm being honest, I was pretty excited. I stayed home that day to watch it, and then also to watch Gargoyles.
oh, gargoyles! No, of course, you can't watch gargoyles.
But I was excited for Mandalorian because I was like, this could be kind of neat. I like the idea of like a space bounty hunter.
It was.
They held on to it for as long as they could. 1 episode. Yeah.
I still like this first season.
Season 1's okay. A little mixed bag. We're not here to discuss that.
Right.
Yeah,
So
we're not here to
that's the
discuss
last
that.
time you were excited for Star
Yeah.
Wars. The last time for me, honestly, I mean, there was a little bit of excitement when Episode 7 came out. Because like, oh, J.J. Abrams at Star Wars, and he's done some good things, and like I'm hearing good things, and then the spoilers leaked, and I was like, oh no, and like you couldn't get away from it because the internet was like, you would go on a website and a YouTube comment would be like,
Yeah.
well, spoilers for Episode 7. Han Solo dies. Han Solo dies. Luke's not in it. Someone's forced. John Bodega isn't Force sensitive.
I
Daisy's
know.
a Jedi, and there was like
Bodega.
like 20 bullet points. It was like Snape kills Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Another spoiler, sorry. And it was just ridiculous. And so I was kind of excited. Then someone dropped that on me, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna watch it anyway. So I think realistically, the last time I was genuinely excited for Star Wars was the eve of Episode 1.
Oh, wow, that's a
I
long time
I
ago.
was in ninth grade, and everyone was talking about it. And I was like, and they were like,
Let me slide this.
they were like, we're gonna skip school today to watch it. I'm like, you know what, me too. And like everyone in my class did.
We skipped school to watch
And it was just like-
episode 3.
And it was just like, oh no. So
Episode 2. We skipped to watch episode 2, I want to say, but I can't remember.
yeah, I don't remember why this was my point, but like the last time I was
Yeah.
excited about Star Wars.
Kind of a dead franchise for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I was a little excited for Andor season 2, but it's not the same level of jubilance I used to have. But anyway, I think we should get into.
Well, you're going, yeah, it's because they already set themselves up for other failures out there that we watched that we didn't like. So when you're coming back into this one, it's like, are they going to mess it up? That was my concern, because I like season 1, kind of the
Right.
slow burn, seeing the same thing. The point that Alex you made about seeing the everyday life of what was going on, even like the manufacturing thing, which is going to tie in to when they have to make the widgets and they're doing this and
Yeah.
all that kind of junk. And the Prison Break stuff was good.
Yeah, that was
you know.
fun. That Prison Break
So,
stuff was pretty fun.
having seen that, and then the whole bunch of other series that came out before this one came, that I did not watch. I tried to watch, did not watch, and it's like, okay, I've heard enough about them. So I was glad they didn't really. It was a little shaky the first 3.
Yes.
Want to start getting
And I
into
think
it
it's
now.
a perfect segue to
but-
get into spoilers. Yeah,
yeah.
jump into spoilers. Tell us what your thoughts on those first
the
3.
first 3 was a little bit shaky because, where we had the ability to sit with somebody for a bit, now we didn't. It was like they kept bouncing back and forth on the 3 different stories that were going on. And all 3 episodes, and we've talked about some of this before, like you could have condensed that into, like an episode and a half, if that, rather than 3. And I mean, how long do you got to stay at the wedding? I mean, and the wedding, and the wedding, and then the wedding, and it's like, come on, And then there was nothing that really paid off that, except for the fact that, it set up Luthen
Yeah.
kind of being,
It's
a little bit more scary than what people had thought at first, because he
Yes.
got rid of Ty.
Yeah, they were getting rid of the banker guy.
The banker
Yes.
guy,
And
the
that-
friend of the senator.
and that's kind of important then later for that one thing where Mothma kind of realizes like, oh, I'm putting myself in the same position that
Yes.
my friend was, and Luthen made him disappear. But you're right, that's the one point,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
There's a few other things that they expect you to take away from it, but I don't think a lot of them land. The whole other group on that planet that is revealed then to be Yavin
Yes.
was that Yavin?
that was Yavin. That's why they do the flyway and you see those temple structures when he flies away.
Yes.
I know, it's terrible.
So I didn't personally. I know that I heard that because I watched all these in the last week.
Yes.
I wasn't excited about Andor.
I don't blame you.
And then I started watching it and I was like, and I'd heard things about it's kind of slow and kind of jumping around. There's a lot of characters,
Yep.
and I was. I think part of it is because I was expecting so much worse, but the jump arounds were not as. They weren't as frequent,
Yes.
or as random as I was fearing they were going to be. Like we had the group on the planet, we had the rebels, and then we had that. There were like 4 groups, which is better than, let's say, one of the things that bothers me the most, one of my biggest pet peeves, is when you go to season 2 of a show, and you're like, we can't drop anyone we had from season 1. They're all in here, and they're all getting an arc and screen time. And I go, ugh. And so when I hear about all these characters, I'm thinking, oh, they're all getting an arc. And to a little bit, there is a little bit of that, and it is detrimental, slightly. But the pacing didn't make me feel like I was sitting there waiting. I wasn't sitting there during a scene going, and what's Andor doing, and what's Bix doing. I was like, okay, this is interesting enough as it is. I liked the culture of the wedding. I thought that seeing that was pretty cool. I loved the Mon Mothma's realization that that she is her mother essentially at that moment. She's like, God damn it! Like that was very just generationally funny, humorous,
It is
humorous,
humorous.
not funny. And like there were some takeaways, and I think my biggest takeaway about the Luthen thing that you mentioned is that Luthen is just, you really see how willing he is to burn every asset, because like he says to Clea later on.
Yeah.
We lose and lose until we win.
Until we win.
So every single loss that he's taking means nothing to him if he can win in the end. And he is just burning people left and right. And I think we see that in the first arc.
Well, it's better exemplified in the second arc, where Cassian comes back from Gorman, and he says they're not ready. If we support them, they're gonna lose. And he's like, but imagine if people see what they're doing to Gorman and they side with us. And he goes, but what if it burns? And Luthen goes, well, then it'll burn very brightly. And Cassian's like, oh my God, he wants them to lose. Yeah. He's like, either way, this is a win for him.
But it is kind of nice that they showed that on a very small scale prior to, so they're setting it up. And we already kind of know that from season one.
I feel there's enough inference.
But it is still
the way he talks with Lonnie in season 1. And he's like, you can't leave.
Right. Yeah, but then he didn't kill Lonnie in season 1. And he sends Tay off with that lady who makes eye contact with the cousin, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, I forgot all about them. No.
Yeah, well, they come back in the next.
The cousin's pretty important, but and then I
more
think
so in the first season than in this one. In this one, this feels a little bit like when you were talking about like you can't really drop characters by the wayside. So, and this is again where I'm going to talk about her and her girlfriend very specifically, because this is where doing year time jumps, I think, creates a little bit of narrative dissonance for us.
Okay.
So it had already been a year since the end of season 1. Mm-hmm. There's a line where Mon Mothma asks, have you talked to your friend? And she goes, no, I haven't been able to speak with her for a while. She sees her at the end. Why the cousin is not in the party and is just roaming around where the cars park at the end of that episode, I don't understand.
Like, you've never walked out to the
parking lot
to puke during a wedding.
Not to puke. But like, don't be ridiculous. The trash cans inside are much nicer.
Well, it's like, hey, I need some space.
Yeah.
Oh, the venue is all, people walk around them.
This is what I don't like about coincidental storytelling, right? You happen to mention the one person, she looks and they make eye contact. And you're like, okay, right. They do know each other. But it took me a moment because I didn't quite remember, to be honest. And then in the second arc...
That's why they tried to remind you with the, hey, what about your...
In the second arc, it's also been a year then since the wedding, right? And she is like, oh, how have you been? And she's like, I was pretty hurt, actually. So I don't know if she crashed the car and somehow survived it, or if it was supposed to be like...
I think something happened.
My guess is, and you don't have to show it. You can infer it sometimes, and that's good storytelling. What I think clearly happened is she crashed the car to make it look like an accident to kill the guy, so that it wasn't an assassination. It wasn't
knowing that she was
it wasn't
probably
a
going to
murder.
die in
It was
too.
nothing but an accident.
Right.
And if she is injured, that sells the story.
Right.
I don't think she expected to walk away from it, because that look she gives at the end looks like I'm going off to die almost. Right, which would have been something. So then they reconnect in the French Resistance, essentially.
Yep.
On Gormand, and
I kind of got Austrian vibes from them.
So it's like a mixture of French. They hired French actors to speak with a Germanic accent. So I guess you're kind of right. They're Belgians.
So the first arc is just them.
Yeah. But so this is what I'm saying, because I'm talking about a judicious use of your time, right? So when you do a year time jump and we have to be reintroduced to them this time, you have lost an opportunity to explore them sort of reconnecting, because you're only going to do 3 episodes and then time jump. So they rush, and it's by far so ham-fisted at the end. It's like, oh, nobody bring any weapons, and of course somebody's going to fire a gun. They don't even have the decency for a truly emotional death. She gets shot from off camera.
Off camera.
You think, because you think they're killing the old French dude who's like, I don't know, put your gun out of my face, young gun, things like that. Yep. The blaster goes off and you're like, oh no. But it's like, no, she's halfway down the street and just dropped dead, And then you get the cringiest speech about how she was a true bloodied warrior. And I mentioned this, that she's yelling at the guy in the transport about you remember this, she was a bloodied warrior. And the problem with that is they cut then to Cassian and Bix, whose story is way more interesting and we've spent more time with, killing that doctor from season 1.
Exactly.
And he's in the new the Imperial Naval Facility.
Yeah.
Explaining how they can get there and set that up, or just more time with them talking to each other about doing it. is a better use of your story. More time with Cyril in the Resistance is a better use of time in story.
Well, I mean, but to be fair, we don't need to see Andor sneaking into an Imperial base again because we know that he can just do that, man. We know that at this point.
Normally I'd agree with you, but they just came off a conversation where they said they couldn't even go walk in a specific park because there are so many cameras now on Coruscant. So I would have liked something a little more time. And again, these are characters like the two.
Well, yeah, that's why they sent Bix into the facility itself and not him.
She's disposable.
Well, no, because she's not recognizable.
Yeah, that's true too. But you have to, I just think, more judicious use of your time, because then, even after that point, the cousin's kind of written out of the show. You know, she gets like 2 more scenes across 6 more episodes.
Well, here's the thing. You're saying all these things that you can write out, but you're using the phrase like judicious use of time, I think is what you said, but I didn't feel like any of my time was wasted. I never felt like the show was just stagnant and I was waiting for the next scene. So I don't know. I mean, I can understand if you were thinking that. I just don't personally have that perspective from my own viewing.
The other thing I was saying about that, you have to foresee your time jump. Spending more time with Cyril ingratiating himself to the rebels, I think, would have been much cooler, and the stakes would have felt more personal when he realizes he just fed them to the Empire.
Right.
Like, that whole realization that he's not actually a hero, that he's like, you know, him spending more time with them, I think would further enhance the emotional arc.
Okay, so I actually disagree with that, because I like how they just took a year and they said within that year the rebels realized that they'd been burned, and so they've spent a year watching, like walking past this man, him walking past them, and them just being like realizing and probably finding out more and more about what he'd done, until the point where he's, you know, like he's this untouchable figure that they all hate, but they can't do anything about it. Like I don't know. I think you can just infer enough from that it's probably, like, the things that I can picture in my head happening that year are probably better than what they would have showed me. I would have just been like, oh, we get it.
I'm just saying, these are things.
Well, I understand that too, but you're like with Cyril, who played a key role in this whole Gorman thing, which is setting up to, you know, you got to realize the reason they're setting that all up is they're going ahead because they want to mine the planet. But even the subtleties of him, they could have spent a little more time with it. They were very subtle, though, in showing him kind of devolve, is what I looked at. Because remember when the first things he was like, he'd do this with his hair, and he was always proper and all that. And then in those last cuts, where you see him out there, his hair's gotten a little unruly. He's a little bit disheveled. I mean, he really went after Deidre there.
Yes, he did.
You know, when he started figuring things out in the market there, or that was the plaza, and then they were building the armory behind it, right?
He sort of already knew. He runs through a checklist. He's like, you have ships in orbit. Drillers have already landed on the outskirts. I'm not an idiot.
Well, he'd already clearly soured with Deirdre by then. And which made sense, because season 1, he was being idealistic just as much as the rebels were being idealistic by approaching him.
Absolutely.
He thought that he was doing good. He thought he was going to bring in Cassian and Axis, and he thought he was going to bring down the people.
Foreign influence is what he said.
Foreign influence. He thought he was doing that, whereas they were creating.
Yes.
They were setting up, you know, like the fake terrorist cell of.
Gorman, when you look at the storyline on that, Gorman was not going to survive either way.
No,
I mean, Luthen and the rebels were setting them up to take them, and I mean they had 2 factions working to the same end, which meant the end of Gorman, essentially. So I thought that storyline was handled fairly well when they started getting into the intrigue.
I just like when you know you're going to kill a principal character like Cyril. I'm just saying. Yeah. I would have, this is me personally again, you know, I just think, spend a little more time with him. You know, I would have liked to see him in the mid stages, right? Because we see him from the highs to, he says, because remember, he says, is it weird to say this is the best day of my life?
Yes,
So we see him from the highs, he's working one-on-one with the director of the ISB and his like lady love, you know what I mean? Essentially his wife.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. And then the next time we see him, he's kind of like disheveled disarray. He's fallen in that 1 year.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying when you constrain yourself to forcing the year time jump to cover these things, I would have liked a little more time with him watching the falling. I like watching the falling actions of characters. You know, I've always liked it.
Yeah.
So that's, like I said, a personal thing. More time with that. more time with Cassian and Bix. Not a big fan of Bix's resolution in the show. I don't know how.
Now I see you jumping from the 4, 5, and 6. Isn't that where we were? 4, 5, and 6.
I guess. I mean, it doesn't really
it
matter.
goes back
Each
to-
individual thing
The serial stories
Is
7, 8, 9, and she leaves in 9.
Yeah.
Yep. No, you're right. There was then.
Yeah, I mean, because we don't. I mean, there's not a whole lot to discuss with Cassian pulling Mon Mothma out of the Senate. It's a
No,
cool
coolest
action
action.
episode. It's very tense for a while. They set up. You don't have to hang on the double agent thing for too long. They don't drag it out.
Nope.
It is a good use of time. You know, it's a cool, like, he just shoots a bunch of people. He's like, because we're getting out of here.
We got to go.
You know, they reaffirm Luthen's dedication to, like, well, if I leave, there's no eyes on Coruscant.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm staying. And everyone's like, you fool, you will be found. So,
See, I thought the pacing as it started out, like I said, the jumping around for the first 3, and after that, I think they kind of settled in.
Yeah.
And then you start, because they really flowed. Because I did the same thing. I kind of waited for the like 2 drops, so then I was able to burn through them, and it seemed much more cohesive, being able to go right into all of them rather than having to sit and wait for another week. So
that's true. I had to sit for a week
you
after
sat for a
Jungle
week,
Antics.
I didn't. I waited, and then I burned through like 6 episodes.
I like the Jungle Antics. It showed that the rebels have like no idea what the hell is going on 5 years ago. They were like, who the hell's Porco? And he's like, are you serious? And then he finds out that the lady was like, they were being run by a lady who he was working with. And he's like, you idiots. And they're like, yeah, but now we're shooting each other, so who doesn't matter? And it's like, oh no.
Yeah, they solve it with Rochambeau. Rock, paper. I was like, okay, this is too silly. And there is a time and place for humor in it.
I didn't find that silly. I found that very, naive.
I don't know.
Like, these people were just shooting at each other, but they're like these because they were idiots.
Well, then that's
But not like in the traditional like we're bungling idiots way. In the whole, we were told that we could join this rebellion and leave and go to the woods and everything would be okay, but it turns out that was not a great plan, and we murdered an actual rebellion leader doing it because we just don't know, and we are so disorganized as a rebellion that like, and Cassian's like, these are the people I've hitched my wagon to. Fuck. That's what I took away from it, and I thought it was good. I liked it.
I think it's completely unnecessary to the rest of the story. I don't think it ever comes back to that kind of disheveled nature, because we actually see them mobilize again in a time skip. Suddenly they go from having like nothing to essentially having like a functional base with the fleet in a year. Those kind of like building up your resistance, those are the things I'm interested in. And for it to happen like in a time skip, I still is not my favorite way to do that. It's like now they just have these things.
My opinion is if they started showing the ins and outs of that and the specifics, you would either say I need more now because you're not able to focus entirely on what's happening, or you'd be like, I want less, and the less is what you got now. But if you want more, then you need like 3 more seasons of the freaking show, man, to get where they wanted. The only little arc that I didn't like was Saw. I was like, ugh, get him out of here. Come on, can you feel your skin crackling?
Yeah, that was yeah. It
Like the
wasn't.
guys, is this supposed to be an analogy for crack?
No,
Because
I
doesn't
don't
crack
think
make your
so.
skin like itch and stuff?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just because everybody knows that he's unhinged, and I think this is just
Come on, Will, smell it.
You even had that joke because it's like, what's under your bed, Will? And he's like, certainly not like the Rhino or whatever. Yeah.
Come on, Saw FK Jr., take your methylene Rhino.
It's like, yeah, just weird.
Yeah, he was in it long enough to know that he was already nuts, and then
He served a better purpose in season 1, where they're like, yeah, we got to make sure that some of these resistance pockets, we can't save them.
Well, I don't even think anyone likes him in Rogue One.
No.
I think everyone was like, why is Saw in this movie? And then like,
He's not well liked
and then he
amongst the
just
fandom, I
kind
don't
of
think.
dies, and you're like, oh, spoiler.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, that's kind of, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of his scenes either.
I didn't need more Saw, but that wasn't that much. That was like 20 more minutes, and I mean, it was kind of cool watching them like him and the
guy,
rotations,
yeah.
alignments.
Well, him figuring out the one guy and his thing was
that was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? That wasn't a waste of screen time.
No.
It's just if there's one character I didn't really need more of, it was Saw.
Yeah.
I like Will. I didn't really need more Will.
I didn't need more Will either. But he, to the credit of the writing, kind of stays in his lane. He doesn't do anything that I would like be like.
Oh, yeah.
Well, then why is he not in Rogue One? See, they do a good job of like, well, why aren't they in Rogue One? They kind of answer that questions, with the exception of Bix.
Well, see, I'm watching the show, and I'm like, it's been so long since I've seen Rogue One. Is he in Rogue One?
Yeah.
There's a couple characters where I'm like,
There's a couple characters I was doing the same thing. I go, is he in that? And I was
Thank
like, no.
God they had the guy run by with the soldiers, because I
yes.
couldn't remember who he was.
Yeah.
So it's like, because remember they end that's like, why do you have it? Whose gun is this? He's like,
yes,
mine. It's
mine.
like, oh, she
she-
recognizes
yeah.
him as a soldier. It
Yeah.
must mean then, right? Because
Yeah.
at first I was like,
this guy's actually has training or some kind of like,
Yeah.
he's got a Heron marked blade.
the Heron mark. Oh, wonderful reference.
Be the time, don't watch it.
No, but I will be excited to go back into Rogue One and watch it again now.
Yeah, me too.
I can only imagine that it benefits from the show.
Yeah.
You know, like, I can't see any way in which it would detract. You know, God, it was just, yeah. Like I said, and I'm going to say it again, the only character whose resolution I'm really not super happy with is Bix. I don't like the idea of that kind of like, if we ran and hide, we're, you know, like, right, Cassian has that speech where he's like, you know,
Yeah, we
we're
can
going to
take
go.
off.
And she's like, I need to leave or you're picking the rebellion. Well, her knowing she's preggers.
Or you're not picking the rebellion.
Yeah, you're going to pick me with a... Her saying she's preggers, I think, would actually incentivize him more to make sure the rebellion wins.
Well, I don't know about that.
But he
I
doesn't-
think that would incentivize him more to stay with her. I think maybe
I wanted the two of them to be a team.
Well, she's met with the spirit healer, and maybe the prophecy that was foretold. You know, he's a messenger, which obviously we know what it means. He gets the message.
He
out
literally gets the
of-
message out. Yeah.
And,
Scarif.
you know, and that's great use of prophecy.
Yeah.
Great small use of prophecy.
Okay.
Very small.
Freaks him the hell out.
It does.
It doesn't mean that she hasn't had conversations with the one where the woman's like, if you stay, he does not go. Like this does not happen if you stay. So we don't like. There's these off-camera things that.
No.
And it's good. I am glad that there is a show that has done things off-camera. We don't get those.
some things.
We don't. I know.
Yeah.
But like, there are so many things that happen off-camera that. There are other things that happen off-camera that you want clearly, but there are so
There
many
are.
things that happen that we don't need to see. That so many shows feel the need to jam down our throats now. It's like we don't need to know why. Like when she's leaving and then they cut to like a pregnancy test or something.
No, I don't need
you know,
that.
You don't need that
No.
kind of stuff
But like her...
or her having the conversation with a prophecy lady where she goes, "You must leave or he will not send the message." And then you watch
she
Bix
kinda-
have this
No,
long...
but that's not what I didn't say that they
No, I
needed
know
things
I
like
know
that.
you're not saying that.
What
I'm just saying I
is,
like that there's
this is the most
possibilities.
generic way to get a character
Oh, yeah.
who you had not introduced off your show. It is the most boring, predictable way.
I know
And-
the ending pregnancy. Here's your emotional schlock. Here's your emotional
knowing
feeling. We are
Cassian's not
so
coming back.
jaded. We don't want that.
No, well, I especially with her character.
There's no happy ending here.
It's like that.
There should be for someone.
Well, I mean, because remember in episodes 4, 5, and 6, her whole arc, you know, like her like drug addiction and then coming to terms with that and then getting vengeance. I saw that as like, oh, this is gonna absolutely get her more involved in the rebellion. I was
That's what
like,
I thought too. I thought she was
for
gonna.
sure,
They
yeah.
were gonna partner up. I was thinking they were gonna lean into that.
But I think it did get her more involved in the rebellion in that she felt the stakes were more real, and that's why she was willing to part with Andor for the rebellion.
I
Because
think she
I don't
should've
think
gone on
like
missions.
let's say that she realizes that she can't actually that she's not really an asset, right? Because what are her skills? Her skills are that
Again,
Andor loves her.
I know
And-
exactly what you're saying,
Yeah.
but from the show writing point of view, all of that pressure had been put on Cassian up until that point, through the numerous conversations he's had and interactions he's had with Luthen. Luthen's like, you'll need to determine whether or not she becomes a liability at a point.
Yep.
So from a writing standpoint, you were putting the pressure on what happens to Bix on Cassian, and it seems like then when Luthen gives them like here's the green light to go kill that doctor.
Right.
It's like, okay, this seems like an attempt now. Now they're going to partner up. Now they're a team, and for even immediately in that year for her to follow, she's just keeping house.
So to follow that for a second, I mean, by him saying that, by him not, oh my God, words. So by that logic, what I personally can see is that gives Bix more agency. Because he's saying, Cassian, you have to decide whether or not she's going to be more involved in the rebellion. And now, realistically, like, that's taking agency away from Bix herself.
No,
But
not-
that is her saying, I want to be involved, but in this
He didn't say. He said whether she's a liability
Right.
to you, not her an increased role per se, right? So
And she decides for herself whether or not she's a liability, which I know.
it's so weak because why can't she go out on a mission with Cassian? The two of them just absolutely doing everything together as a team, right? Why do we always got to separate them out? Right, you don't. I'm so tired of separating out the
Because
protagonist
he's a
from his.
master soldier, spy, pilot, and
Yeah.
she's not.
But she still has value to him, and
Right.
so bringing her on a mission, maybe something happens. You don't have to kill her, but you can wound her. You don't have to write her off screen. She doesn't have to just disappear in the middle of the night. I'm so tired of the most boring decision you can make, writing a character off by having them be like, I need to do this for a cause larger and more noble than ourselves. I was like,
That's Star Wars.
dude, not when you know you're preggers. Like, it's like,
Andian makes that decision too, though. At the end, he's like, "I need to do this for a cause larger and more noble for myself."
but he's had that built up all around him. That's every step of his journey. This is just a decision they made at the end of one episode because they wrote a character who obviously they didn't feel like killing off or militarizing further. And I don't understand why they went with the most boring internet joke, because the internet was predicting it. They were like, she's pregnant. We'll see her holding a baby at the end.
But I mean, isn't it even more of a trope and a joke to make her into his like Mr. and Mrs. Smith style spy wife?
She's had something, and this is where you use that. This is where like your use of a year time jump. I'd be okay with assuming he brought her up to speed on a few things.
Okay, that could work.
But instead, that year time jump, she's just keeping home. She's not really involved. She's like just keeping home.
Yeah, she was
like,
staying.
Well, she's also probably maybe recovering off those fucking like tranquilizers she's taking.
The pill, yeah. If
The
they
tranquilizers.
like her drops, see that
Like
would have
ketamine,
been,
probably.
and that would have been more interesting too if we had seen like another facet of that. But we still don't because it all gets eliminated within the year time jump.
Well, I'm glad that we don't see her getting addicted and then getting off the addiction. We don't need that. She needs more blankets. My God, she needs less blankets.
Well, but what I'm saying is you have a lot of interesting places to go with this character, and instead you go with, she's like, if I don't leave, Cassian will not help the rebellion.
I do get what you're saying.
He will leave the rebellion if he sticks with me, and I just find that to be the most boring cop-out when you could do so many more interesting things with the character. Hank, get over here.
I do get what you're saying, but it doesn't feel to me like there's a... Like
It's
a,
weak,
It
is
doesn't
what I'm
feel like
saying.
a cop-out.
I think it's weak and it's a cop-out. I don't care for it. I think there are more interesting ways of writing your characters. And I was just really bummed
There's
that
always a more interesting way of writing a character.
it just ends with her back on a planet, by the way, that they should know to look for her. Hank, stop.
Did he catch
Jesus
it?
Christ.
Did he catch it? There you go. He's sitting there.
Oof. Okay.
You got it.
And Derek, we've just spent more time talking about Bix than she has screen time, so why
I
is this a
know,
problem?
that's also disappointing because I liked Bix. I really liked Bix, especially I thought she was great in those 6 episodes at the beginning. Like her on the planet, and I know everybody was all like, "Oh, I can't believe they showed Grape, so to speak, in Star Wars." It did not come across to me as anything that was out of the ordinary. I thought it was handled well. I thought, if anything, like she should have, instead of yelling to the other guy from the doorway, she just should have come out shooting. Like, I just would have thought there was just so much more you could have done with Bix, but she ends up coming across as more like almost set dressing and then like small frictions with Cassie. Dude, she gets one of my favorite scenes in the whole thing where she's talking with Cassian in their safe house and she goes, "You didn't shoot that guy because he was a soldier. You shot him because he saw my face."
Yeah.
And he goes, "What's the difference?" Like stuff like that. Like she was so much more interesting than, "Dear husband, I need to leave now in the middle of the night while you're asleep." I'm like,
If that's your favorite conversation between them, then why would you think that Cassian would ever bring her on a mission? Like, he is her liability, she is his liability.
I'm saying there are workarounds because that's what
There's not.
you start them in conflict like that and they can end in unison. But instead, we don't do anything with that. He obviously takes her on the mission to go kill the doctor who did it. Because that's your point. That's your point of pivot, right? That's the point of pivot for her character. And I was so excited to see what she was going to do next. And the answer was she fucks off to the finale. I was so disappointed. I just thought
She
it was.
goes and she does what she does. She's a
didn't
mechanic.
I did not like it. I expected just more from her character. I really did. And so I'm bummed because this is a character I liked. And She just disappears in the middle of the night. It's like, oh, great. She Dear Johnson from the same room. Like,
Oh, yeah. That was her arc in this.
yeah. You want to talk about that? Her arc
Yeah,
is just
her
to
arc
carry
is
his
that.
child. Like, that's it.
She is the arc
She
for
is.
the New Hope.
The new hope.
The new hope.
The
That's so
newer-
funny
the
when you
newer
said
hope.
she was holding the
Should be
baby.
the newer hope.
You're like, oh my God, it ends like just like Rogue One with the New Hope. And we're like, oh, sick. But yeah, that was
I
really...
gotta say, I am excited for season 3. I want to know more about this Death Star.
Oh boy, do I got some bad news for you.
Oh man, does it at least blow up one planet?
Yes, many. I think it blows up at least 2 in Rogue One, right? Doesn't it blow up Jeddah? Don't they they fired on Jeddah and then it blows up Scarif?
Yeah, I think so.
But I mean, it's not at full power, so it might just scour the surface real bad.
Well, it also blows up Alderaan.
Alderaan.
That's not in Rogue One though.
That's not in Rogue
Yeah, but
One.
it does blow up Alderaan. You are
That's in
correct.
episode 4.
Four. That's that's a ways away.
Joke's on them.
Episode 1 has the Jewish guy selling slaves.
Watto.
Oh, Star Wars, what a mess. And it all ends, and this whole rebellion ends with like 20 guys on the Millennium Falcon at the end of episode 8. That's all that's left at the end of episode 8.
Okay.
It's 20 dudes on the Millennium Falcon.
We had a conversation the other day because remember how we said this was a heroic show?
Yeah.
I said, Dad, I was like, you know what really pisses me off? This ends with the First Order, you know, and like Rey and Finn and like Poe and just like all these characters who, quite frankly, I don't care about.
Yeah.
And they're like, look at that. They have to fight the bigger Death Star
Yeah.
that shoots Coruscant from an impossible distance. It's like all this mounting heroism. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is how they take out the Death Star. And then I'm like, oh, wait. Oh, no. Oh no, there's still episode 7, 8, and 9.
Right, and I mean, it just takes so much away from it, knowing like...
It does.
Like, Mandalorian is fun, but you know it ends with episode 7. And Baby Yoda, who gets possibly trained by Luke at the end of season 2.
Yeah,
I
what's
didn't watch
that?
season 3. Luke takes him away.
Oh no,
and it's like,
they undo it.
they undo it. But so, like, even if
Yeah,
they
they
had
did
done
undo
it,
it.
then Baby Yoda gets killed by Kylo Ren, and all these Jedis that are up and coming, all these Force users that are like popping up throughout the galaxy. Now it's like, oh, and Kylo Ren kills them. It's like, and then there's 20 people left in the Millennium Falcon. That's the whole flying away in episode 8. They're like, the whole Resistance is with us, and it's like, so every character I ever cared about has nothing.
Yep.
And then I didn't even watch episode 9. I didn't watch it.
That's not true. We tried, but I was a little in my cups and wouldn't shut up about how much I hated what I was seeing. And so you're like, we're turning it off.
It's true.
But because I did not like any of it.
You know what I watched instead?
What's that?
One quick cut of the Dead that day.
Oh, much
You went to
better.
your room, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to put this on.
Yep.
Great.
Much better. One Cut of the Dead. Fantastic. All right, so we've pretty much discussed everything we can.
about that.
Any
yeah.
final thoughts on Andor, Dad?
No, I
Anything
think-
you think we missed?
No, I don't think we missed anything other than it was a good, the way it wrapped up was a good prequel. Like, I agree with Alex. I'm ready to watch Rogue One now.
Yeah.
I'm just, okay, here we go. I mean, the coolest thing was watching the droid come to life and watching him interact with people. And,
Oh, yeah, KSL stole the show the last episode.
yeah, so, I mean, that's
did.
pretty much it.
He did steal that final arc,
Yes, he
didn't
did.
He stole Rogue One, too, as I recall, once he
Yeah,
got
he
on
was
screen.
Yeah, he
He's
kind of
pretty
did.
Yeah, when
So-
Jin shoots the one like droid, and he's like, "Did you not know?
Yeah.
You didn't." It's like you didn't think that was me, did you? It's like, yeah, did you not know that wasn't me? Because he uses a double negative.
Yeah.
I was like, robots would know better.
Yeah, that's the other thing about Star... That's one of the things I liked, though, was that the Imperium, they talk about all these cameras and stuff, but really, like, when you look at the day-to-day Imperial surveillance state, it is one guy watching one person. Like, he's got his microphone on that one guy, he's got his camera on that one guy, and he's sitting there at the desk surveilling one person, and then there's an office of like 200 people there, and they're all watching one person. So you have all these cameras, but it's not like they have these AI...
Right.
It's not like they have droids that are sitting there watching 20 screens at a time,
Right.
going, we
No,
know
they
everything.
didn't. They
No, it's
didn't.
people.
They did keep
it
the people.
It was very Soviet style. I watch you, you watch me, everyone behaves, which we know isn't true, but that is the core philosophy behind that kind of surveillance state. And so it's very interesting not to have the AI in it at all. And even when the robots have a little sentience, would you call them AI? I don't know.
A little bit, yeah.
KSO and maybe C-3PO and the feminist bot from Solo But other than that, all the droids are basically like,
forgot
what do you
about
do? I open doors.
Yeah.
And what else do you do? I behave like a dog. Pat me on the head. You know?
I vacuum.
Yeah.
It's like,
And so it's like, are droids like sentient AI beings? It's hard to say, but they
That's true, too.
don't have massive AI, at least in this
That's
universe.
true. They have fantasy, just the right level of cognizance where they can
Right.
make their own decisions. KSO
Follow orders.
Follow
They
orders.
kinda
Makes
follow
it-
the orders.
Knows what he's doing.
And I loved when KSO or the KX units on Gorman, when the guy just throws the person. Every other show, the person would be like, "I got up and I'm okay." No,
No.
you see,
Oh,
they
they
get
didn't.
thrown 20 feet and they are dead.
Yeah, they
because
are.
that's what happens. Your head bounces off concrete.
Yeah.
with like that force, and it's like, oh, okay, right. Like they're not just useless riot units. They're like, I'm gonna kick you into that wall and you are dead now.
Yeah.
That was a good scene when he walked in the door and they're all sitting there, and then one just
The one just keeps looking at Cyril.
We're like, okay.
Oh, I was scared. I was like, is he getting sent into like the "we're killing you" like room?
It felt like that a little bit, but
Yeah.
instead Cyril's like, "Oh no, they're going to let these guys loose," and
yeah.
that prompts him to go up in anger as well.
Which rightfully so. I
course.
liked his arc a lot.
Cyril's arc was great.
I
That's
liked-
why I said I wanted to spend more time with him.
I liked Daedra. So don't let me and Derek discuss like 20-minute argument about Bix make you think that we don't love this show, because we love this show.
Well, that's
we
why you
we
can
do
tell.
get fixated
That's how
on
you
it.
can
We
tell
do get
love the show,
fixated
though.
on little things.
But that's how you can tell we love
Right.
it. Because
And,
if we didn't like it, we wouldn't give a crap about it.
I did wish we had a little more aliens, but the Empire is really xenophobic.
Well, they say that the
But we see
Emperor,
it in seasons 4, 5, and 6, where the aliens,
Yeah.
Sure, they're allowed to be on the Senate and say things, but the Senate's not allowed to do anything.
Yeah, there's like
And the aliens that say the things
they're not really
that the
part of
Empire
the
wants them to
Empire.
say are allowed to be there.
Yes.
So, it's just a cool little look into the Star Wars universe that the Star Wars universe does not give you at any other time. That's what I like about it.
I agree.
All right.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I did. Like I said, I still think some of their decisions vis-a-vis time and character arcs, I think they could have done a better job. And by that I mean just giving me more of the characters I like. It kind of sounds like what I'm saying, which is sort of true.
True, right.
There are characters I really cared about, characters I didn't care about, and you always want to spend more time with the characters that you like.
Right.
And I thought it really leads into Rogue One quite well. I was sure that it was going to. I was just really hoping, don't mess up, don't mess up,
Yeah.
don't mess up. That's it. That's let's say, please don't mess this up.
I am sad that now we don't have Pedro Pascal in the Disney universe anymore.
That's not Pedro Pascal, you racist.
Who is it?
It's Diego Luna.
Who is that?
He was in Narcos. Actually, so is Pedro Pascal. That's not going to help you. That's not going to help you. Anyways, that's all the time we got for this. We've gone on. We've rambled for far too long. But anyways, thanks for watching if you made it this far. And let me know who was right about how they should structure the show, myself or Plummer. No time for Plummer's retort. We got to cut.